Hey everyone and welcome back. Today we are diving into the world of tinnitus relief, specifically sound therapy and white noise for tinnitus relief. You've probably heard about these techniques, but today we're going beyond the surface. We'll unpack how they work, what the science says, and what approaches might be worth trying for you. Our guide for this deep dive is an article titled, you guessed it, Sound Therapy and White Noise for Tinnitus Relief.
It's fascinating how we can use external sounds to influence something that feels so internal, right? But before we get into let's clarify what we're dealing with. Tinnitus isn't a disease in itself. It's more like a signal, a symptom pointing to something else. It could be hearing loss, exposure to loud noise, stress, or even underlying medical conditions.
So it's like a flashing warning light on your car's dashboard that tells you something's up, but you need a mechanic to diagnose the actual problem.
Exactly. And that's where things can get tricky because tinnitus is a symptom. The way it manifests varies from person to person. The good news is that sound therapy offers a toolbox of techniques to manage it regardless of the underlying cause.
Okay, let's unpack this toolbox. The article mentions that sound therapy can work in a few different ways. It can mask the internal ringing, distract from it, or even retrain your brain's response to it. Which one of these do you think holds the most promise? Or is it a combination?
It's often a combination, and understanding why each approach works is key. Take masking, for example. It seems pretty straightforward. You're essentially covering up the annoying ringing with more pleasing sounds. But what's really happening is you're changing the way your brain processes auditory signals. White noise, for instance, creates a consistent sound environment. That reduces the contrast between the tinnitus and the background, making it less noticeable to your brain.
So it's not just about drowning out the sound, but actually changing how the brain perceives it. That's really interesting.
It is, and that same principle applies to other types of sound therapy too. Think about nature sounds, the gentle whoosh of waves, the rustling of leaves. They're not just pleasant to listen to, they actually tap into our brain's natural tendency to tune out. Constant, non-threatening sounds.
So it's like tricking the brain into thinking. This ringing is just part of the natural soundscape, nothing to worry about here.
Exactly. And then you have techniques like binaural beats, which use specific frequencies to alter brainwave patterns. They can actually induce states of relaxation or focus, indirectly reducing the perception of tinnitus.
Okay, so we've got sound masking, nature sounds, binaural beats. That's already a pretty diverse toolbox. And then there's this concept of habituation, which I'm really curious about.
Habituation is all about training your brain to stop paying so much attention to the tinnitus. Think about it. You probably have a clock ticking in your house, but you don't notice it most of the time, right?
That's true. I'm so used to it, it just fades into the background.
Exactly. Your brain has learned that the ticking isn't a threat, so it doesn't need to constantly alert you to it. Sound therapy can help us achieve that same level of habituation with tinnitus by consistently exposing yourself to soothing sounds. You're essentially teaching your brain to tune out the ringing.
So in a way, all these different approaches are working toward the same goal, helping the brain reprioritize how it processes sound, making that internal ringing less of a focus.
That's a great way to put it. And what's fascinating is that we're still learning so much about how the brain adapts to sound and how we can leverage that to manage tinnitus more effectively.
This is already blowing my mind, and we've only just scratched the surface. I'm especially intrigued by this idea of white noise. Our source really highlights it as a tinnitus powerhouse. What makes it so effective?
White noise is effective because it creates a consistent auditory environment. Think of it like a blanket of sound that covers up the peaks and valleys of the tinnitus. It's that consistency that seems to be key. It prevents your brain from fixating on the ringing, making it less noticeable, especially when it's quiet or you're trying to sleep.
Okay, that makes sense. But I've also heard of pink and brown noise. Are they just fancier names for white noise, or is there something different about them?
They're variations on the theme, but with different frequency profiles. White noise contains all frequencies of sound equally, creating that static-like sound. Pink noise, on the other hand, has more energy in the lower frequencies, giving it a deeper, more natural sound that some people find more soothing. Imagine the sound of a waterfall that's similar to pink noise.
I can definitely see how that could be more relaxing. And what about brown noise?
Brown noise is even deeper than pink noise, with a wumbling quality that might remind you of distant thunder or strong wind. Some people find it particularly helpful for sleep. It's all about experimenting to see what your ears and your brain prefer.
That's really helpful. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about finding the type of sound, the volume, and the timing that works best for you.
Exactly. And that's where the real exploration begins. In the next segment, We'll delve into the practical side of things, how to choose the right sound therapy tools, from white noise machines to apps, and how to integrate them into your daily life for maximum benefit.
All right, let's get practical. We've explored the science and the different types of sound therapy. Now I'm ready to put this knowledge into action. Where do we even begin?
It can feel overwhelming at first, but remember the goal is to find what works for you. And that often involves some experimentation. Think of it as a journey of sonic discovery.
I like that, a sonic adventure. So where do we start our adventure?
The article mentions white noise machines, apps, headphones. It's a lot to take in.
Let's break it down. White noise machines are a great option, especially for nighttime use. They offer that consistent neutral sound we talked about, and they're designed to be unobtrusive, perfect for creating a calming sleep environment.
Okay, but how do you choose a good one? I'm guessing that they're not all created equal.
You're right. There are some key features to look for. First, sound variety. Some machines offer just white noise, while others have a range of options, including pink and brown noise, nature sounds, even ocean waves and rain.
Having options is always good. I'm already picturing myself drifting off to sleep with the sound of a crackling fireplace or a gentle stream. Exactly. And don't forget about volume control. You want a machine that allows for fine-tuning, so you can find the perfect level. Soothing, but not distracting.
That makes sense. Too loud and it might keep you awake. Too soft and it might not be effective. What about timer settings?
Timer settings are a great feature, especially for sleep. You can set the machine to turn off automatically after a certain amount of time, so you don't have to worry about it running all night.
That's a nice touch. Now, for those of us who are always glued to our phones, there are apps, right? Do those offer the same level of control?
Absolutely. White noise apps have become incredibly sophisticated. They offer a vast library of sounds, from classic white noise to nature soundscapes, and even binaural beats. You can customize the volume set timers, and even create your own personalized sound mixes.
Wow, so you could blend the sounds of a rainforest with gentle piano music, if that's your thing.
Exactly. Some apps even allow you to adjust the frequencies within a sound to really fine-tune it to your liking.
That's pretty impressive. It seems like there's an app for everything these days, and sound therapy is no exception.
It's true. And the beauty of apps is that they're portable and readily available. You can use them at home, at work, on the go, wherever you need a little sonic support.
That's a huge advantage. But what about headphones or earbuds? When would you recommend using those?
Headphones and earbuds are fantastic for situations where you need more focused sound therapy. Like in a quiet office or while commuting, they can create a personal sound bubble, blocking out distractions and allowing you to really immerse yourself in the soothing sounds.
Right, because blasting white noise from a machine in a shared workspace might not go over so well.
Definitely not. And when it comes to choosing headphones or earbuds, comfort is key. You'll be wearing them for a while, so make sure they fit well and feel good.
And noise cancellation can be a big bonus too, right? To really block out the external world and create that sonic sanctuary.
Absolutely. Noise-canceling headphones can make a huge difference, especially if you're sensitive to background noise or you're trying to focus in a noisy environment.
Okay, we've covered the tools. Now let's talk about the sounds themselves. We touched on white, pink, and brown noise. And nature sounds. How do you know which one to try first? Is there a best place to start?
It really comes down to personal preference and experimentation. White noise is that classic static sound. Some people find it soothing, others find it a bit harsh. Pink noise, with its deeper, more natural quality, is often more universally enjoyed.
And brown noise is even deeper, right? Like that rumbling waterfall sound.
Exactly, but remember what sounds relaxing to one person might be irritating to another? The best approach is to sample a variety of sounds and see what resonates with you.
I like that. It's like a sound tasting menu.
Yeah.
Trying different flavors to find your sonic soulmate.
I love that analogy. And nature sounds are a whole other category to explore. Ocean waves, rainfall, birdsong. There's something incredibly calming and grounding about connecting with those natural soundscapes.
It's like bringing a little piece of the outdoors into your everyday life.
Exactly. So once you've chosen your sound source and type, the key is to incorporate sound therapy into your daily routine.
So it's not just a one-time fix, it's more about consistent exposure.
Precisely. The more you use it, the more your brain will habituate to the sound. And tune out the tinnitus. Think of it like building a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes.
Okay, so it's like a sonic workout for the brain.
Yeah.
And like any workout routine, consistency is key.
Exactly. You can incorporate sound therapy into different parts of your day, during meditation, while working or studying, or even as you're falling asleep. The goal is to create a sonic environment that supports your overall well-being.
This is so empowering. It's like taking control of your sound environment and using it to your advantage.
That's the spirit. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Be patient with yourself, experiment with different approaches, and don't hesitate to seek professional guidance if you need it.
That's such an important reminder. An audiologist or tinnitus specialist can provide personalized recommendations and help you navigate the world of sound therapy.
Absolutely. They can be invaluable allies on your journey to tinnitus relief.
This has been so helpful. I feel like I'm finally starting to understand the power of sound and how it can be used to manage tinnitus. But I know we're not done yet. In our next segment, we're going to delve into some specific sound therapy techniques and explore how to choose the right one for you. Welcome back to our deep dive into sound therapy for tinnitus relief. We've covered so much ground from the science to the tools. Now let's get into the techniques. I'm eager to learn about the strategies behind actually using these tools.
You're in for a treat. There's a whole world of sound therapy techniques out there, and we'll unpack some of the most effective ones today.
Perfect. We touched on habituation earlier, but I'd love to explore that further. Is that something we can actively practice, or is it more of a passive process?
Habituation is definitely something you can actively encourage. It's all about retraining your brain to respond differently to that pesky ringing. One common technique is called sound masking, which is essentially using external sounds to reduce the prominence of your tinnitus.
So it's not about completely eliminating the sound, but rather making it less intrusive.
Exactly. It's like camouflaging the tinnitus with more pleasing sounds, creating a sonic buffer zone. You can use white noise nature sounds or even soft music for this. The goal is to find sounds that are neutral and non-intrusive, something you can easily tune out.
I can see how that could help shift your focus away from the tinnitus. But how does that lead to habituation? Is it just a matter of time and exposure?
It's more than just exposure. It's about changing your brain's association with the sound. Initially, your brain treats tinnitus as a new and potentially important signal, but by consistently masking it with other sounds, you're essentially teaching your brain, hey, this ringing isn't dangerous, it's just part of the background noise.
So it's like training your brain to categorize the tinnitus as unimportant, something it can safely ignore.
That's a great way to put it. And the more you practice this, the better your brain becomes at filtering out the tinnitus. Even when you're not actively masking it, it's a gradual process, but it's incredibly empowering to realize you can rewire your brain's response to sound.
That's amazing. It makes you realize how adaptable the brain really is. So sound masking can help with habituation. What other techniques are there?
Another approach is called tinnitus retraining therapy, or TRT for short. This is a more structured program that combines sound therapy with counseling.
Okay, that sounds more involved. What does the counseling aspect address?
TRT recognizes that tinnitus is more than just a physical phenomenon. It can have a significant emotional and psychological impact, causing stress, anxiety, and even sleep problems.
It makes sense. When you're constantly bombarded by an annoying sound, it's bound to take a toll on your well-being.
Exactly. So TRT incorporates counseling to help patients understand tinnitus, manage their emotional response to it, and develop coping mechanisms.
So it's a holistic approach, addressing both the physical and mental aspects of tinnitus. What about the sound therapy component of TRT? How does that work?
Typically, patients wear sound generators for several hours a day. These devices emit a low-level broadband sound that helps desensitize the auditory system to the tinnitus.
So it's kind of like sound masking, but with a more targeted approach.
You could say that. The sound generators are specifically calibrated to the individual's tinnitus frequency, helping to blend the tinnitus into the background sound environment.
That's fascinating. It's like creating a custom soundtrack to retrain your brain. Are there any other cutting-edge approaches on the horizon?
There are some really exciting developments in the field of sound therapy. Researchers are exploring personalized sound therapy based on an individual's unique tinnitus characteristics.
Personalized sound therapy. That sounds incredibly advanced. How does that work?
It involves using sophisticated technology to analyze the specific frequency and characteristics of a person's tinnitus. Then customized sounds are created to target and offset those specific frequencies.
Wow, that's like creating a sonic antidote tailored to your unique tinnitus.
Exactly. It's still in the early stages of research, but the initial results are promising. It's a testament to how far we've come in understanding the intricacies of sound in the brain.
This is also mind-blowing. But I imagine it can be overwhelming for someone newly diagnosed with tinnitus. To know where to start, what advice would you give them?
The most important thing is to remember that you're not alone, and there is hope. Tinnitus is a very common condition, and there are many effective ways to manage it.
That's reassuring to hear. Where do you recommend people start?
Start by talking to your doctor or an audiologist. They can help rule out any underlying medical conditions and provide personalized recommendations.
That makes sense. Getting a professional assessment is always a good first step. What about exploring sound therapy on your own?
Absolutely. Experiment with different types of sounds and techniques. See what brings you the most relief. Don't be afraid to try different white noise machines, apps, headphones, or nature sounds. It's a journey of discovery, and what works for one person may not work for another.
So it's about finding your own sonic path to tinnitus relief.
Exactly. And remember, keep a journal of your experiences. Note down the types of sounds you try, how long you use them, and how they make you feel. This can help you identify patterns and fine-tune your approach over time.
That's a great tip. It turns the journey into a conscious exploration rather than just random trial and error.
Exactly. And don't forget that tinnitus relief is often a multifaceted approach. Sound therapy is a powerful tool, but it can be even more effective when combined with other strategies, like stress management techniques and lifestyle changes.
So it's about taking a holistic approach to your well-being. Recognize that tinnitus is often connected to other aspects of your life.
Precisely. And if you're feeling overwhelmed or your tinnitus is severely impacting your quality of life, don't hesitate to seek professional help. There are therapists and counselors who specialize in tinnitus management and can provide valuable support.
That's such an important reminder. Professional guidance can make a world of difference.
It can. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Be patient with yourself. Keep exploring and celebrate the small victories along the way.
That's beautiful advice. This deep dive has been so illuminating. We've learned that sound therapy isn't just about masking noise. It's about understanding how our brains process sound and harnessing that knowledge to find relief.
And it's about empowering ourselves to take control of our sonic environment, creating a soundscape that supports our well-being.
So well said. Now, as we wrap up our exploration of sound therapy and white noise for tinnitus relief, I'm left with a final thought for our listeners. What unique blend of sounds will bring you peace and quiet? The answer's out there waiting to be discovered. So keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep believing in the power of sound to transform your experience of tinnitus.